My scripture reading is taken from Matthew's, the 21st chapter, the 18th through the 22nd verse. And now in the morning, as he returned into the city, Jesus, he hungered. And when he saw a fig tree in the way, he came to it and found nothing thereon, but leaves only. And he said unto it, let no fruit grow on thee henceforward forever. And presently the fig tree withered away. And when his disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, how soon is the fig tree withered away? Jesus answered and said unto them, verily I say unto you, if ye have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if ye shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things, whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. And thus is the scripture reading of Matthew's 21st chapter, 18th through the 22nd verse. Again, I say unto you, good morning. Now, this scripture says a lot to us as followers of truth. Let us understand now what the scripture is saying, but not so much as to what the scripture is saying, but what is being said through the man Jesus. For he hungered, and when he came unto the fig tree that was supposed to bear fruit, and there was no fruit, only the leaves on the tree. That leaves that basically represent a fig tree, but it bare no fruit. And so Jesus touched the tree and said, because that there is no fruit, from henceforth, you're done with. You're gone, you're through. And the disciples, those that witnessed the seemingly miracles, marvel, oh my, what great power. But then Jesus said something to them. If ye have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but ye shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and cast into the sea. What great power! Jesus was speaking to his disciples. Now, what we have to understand as those of us that study metaphysics and those that are on the spiritual path, that Jesus is speaking a truth. Jesus is speaking of a power that is within every man, woman, and child. If ye Have faith and doubt not. That's key. Key number one. If you have faith and doubt not only will you be able to do this that is done to the fig tree, but ye shall be able to speak to the mountain and say, be thou removed into the sea. Now let us give some thought. Because the first thing folks gonna say and think, I cannot speak to the mountain and tell the mountain, be thou cast into the sea. I don't have that kind of power. I don't believe that I have that kind of power. So I'm not even gonna think in terms. But already there goes the doubt. The doubt is already there. When you say that I cannot, when you think that you cannot, when you believe that you cannot, you will not. Now let us understand what scripture is relating to us, or what the master teacher Jesus. And first let this be understood. Jesus represented the vehicle through which the I am, or the spiritual consciousness of God, was operating in and through. Jesus represented the vehicle through which the spirit of I am was speaking through. And I'm going to say this before I go on any further, and I hope I don't lose my train of thought. I am the same source or consciousness that was speaking in and through the vehicle of Jesus. I am the same source that was speaking in and through the vehicle of Jesus. And so are you. And so are you. But if you have not faith and you doubt, then the demonstration that was spoken by the man Jesus, you will never be able to demonstrate in your life. I am the same source that spoke in and through the vehicle of the man Jesus. Now, when we talk about the mountain being removed to yonder place, cast into the sea, I want you to follow me now. Stay here with me. In a spiritual sense, the mountain represented or represents an exalted state of consciousness. Way up there. You hear it talk about going to the mountaintop. And one of the greatest words or sermons that was given by the mountaintop or concerning the mountaintop is when Dr. Martin Luther King said he had been to the mountaintop and seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. You see, when you get to the mountaintop, you have that higher state of consciousness and you're above all worldly things. And yet the mountaintop, there's that vastness that appears to be an emptiness. But the vastness at the top of the mountain is not an emptiness, it's filled with life. But that Vastness cannot be perceived by the worldly eyes. The spiritual eye must be open for you to see the allness, the glory of God. Dr. King said he had seen the glory. And it was not by his physical eyes that he beheld the glory of God at the mountaintop. It was by his spiritual eye. It is by the Christ consciousness within him that he was able to see and to behold the glory of God. And so when scripture speaks about casting the mountain into the sea, we're coming on down now, coming on down to that worldly mind, that worldly level of seemingly understanding. When scripture states, if you have faith, you can speak to this mountain and be thou removed and cast into the sea. The mountain that the scripture speaks about are the challenges, are the boundaries that stand before us, that keeps us from moving forward. Blockages. And when scripture says that with faith, you can move these mountains and cast them into the sea. Now let us understand what the sea represents. We know that when we think of the sea, we think of water. And when we look out in the world as to what's happening in certain parts of the country and that which has happened, the floods have come and destroyed and washed away. But water, I want you to understand this, get this into your consciousness. Water represents a positive energy. Water represents a positive energy. And the mountains being cast into the sea represents the water, which is the positive energy of our consciousness. Anything that represents a blockage or a challenge, stumbling blocks or boundaries, by the sea of our consciousness of positive and constructive thinking, we can move it. We can cause it to crumble. And when you look at water, especially when you're talking about the floods on the physical plane, when water starts to move, it moves everything out of its way. Everything in its way, it moves. And what it can't move, it will go around. And if you know anything about the Grand Canyons, I've studied the history of the Grand Canyons, the depths and the deepness of the Grand Canyons was caused by the erosion. Water constantly running in a certain area, a certain place over a period of time caused erosion. Moving out of the way, water will find a way to get from point A to point B. It would either go around it, go through it, or dissolve it. And so the mountains that the scripture speaks about being cast into the sea are those things that stand in our way of spiritual growth and unfoldment. By the sea of our consciousness of positive and constructive thinking, we can move that which appeared to be insurmountable. You've heard people say some folks take a molehill and make a mountain out of it. And the mountain is so high that you can't climb it, you can't get over it, you can't get around it, you can't get through it. But the sea of your consciousness, and as I said, water represents positive energy. We cannot exist on this planet without water. There's nothing bad or negative about water. We cannot exist on this planet without water. And you see where there are certain areas in the country, in the world, people are standing in line for the one most important thing, water. We don't have water, we can't grow food. There are times when, I don't know if it's still in practice today, but the Indians used to have people to do rain dances because there was no rain. And then the government had planes that would go up and seed the clouds so that it would rain. Farmers' crops are drying up because there's no rain. And there's parts of China and those areas over there where they have the monsoon. It's a time of planting the rice. They need the floods, the waters to come. Water is a positive energy. It's a positive source. But when it comes in the way of floods and destroy, in a sense, those things that are upon the earth, water itself doesn't know anything about destruction. Water is just doing what water does, moves. And anything that is in its way will be moved. If it can't get around it, it will find a way. Move it, get around it, or go through it. And so this is the approach that we have to take on this spiritual path when it comes to things of our spiritual growth and unfoldment. There will be challenges. There will be things that will be placed in our path that will at times seems to be insurmountable. And it causes us to give up. We lose faith. We have doubt. And so we turn back. We don't progress. And you know, as water is flowing, I was taught many years ago by a relative who was an uneducated guy as far as academics. But he knew things about nature. He knew how to survive in nature. He knew the things that you could eat. He knew the water that you could drink. And I remember him saying, he said, you know, when we go down to the riverside and you get thirsty, you want to drink from the stream where the water is running over the rocks because it's purifying. But where there is a hole and the water has no outlet, the water has become stagnated, don't drink it. It's poisonous. It will kill you. And so it is in our consciousness when we remain stagnated in our thinking and in our beliefs. We poison our own system because we are not allowing the truth that is within us to flow. We lock ourselves in to our unbeliefs and our doubts. And when things don't go our way, we want to accuse everyone or everything but ourselves. And we are the ones that have created the stagnation. We are the ones that have not allowed the water to flow, that positive and constructive energy that will remove all things that are in our path of spiritual growth and unfoldment. And as the master teacher went on to say, whatsoever you ask in prayer and believing. See, some folks just sit down and pray. Okay, God, this is what I need. And God, I need you to step in and help me with this situation. And they get on up and go about their business. They don't believe. They are professing God by the mouth and not their heart. And so I hear folks saying, well, I pray, but God doesn't answer prayer. And I said, you have not prayed aright. Because as far back as I can know, everything that I have ever asked of God, God has given. God has blessed me with more than what I have asked for. And so when they say that God doesn't answer prayer, well, we don't take time to listen either. We got so many other things going on in our mind that we don't have time to sit still and listen to what the Spirit is saying within us. Yeah, and the master teacher said, when you pray or ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive not some things, but all things. When you ask in prayer and believe, ye shall receive. Now, I've spoken, you've heard me say it many times before, there are three levels when it comes to this state of consciousness. There are those that believe. There are those that have faith. And there are those that know. When you get to that state of consciousness of knowing, you are one with the source. I have transcended believing. I have transcended faith. I am in the state of consciousness that I know that I am, that I am. I am one with. And so as the Dr. Martin Luther King said, he had gotten to the mountaintop and seen the glory. I have reached that state of consciousness. And as some folks sit and wait for the second coming of Christ, the second coming has already come for me. I don't have to sit and wait for the second coming. The second coming has already come for me. I have transcended believing. I have transcended faith. I am at a state of consciousness where I know. Because all things that the master teacher taught, I have demonstrated in my life by the Spirit that is within me. And so as you Prepare yourselves for this Thanksgiving season. Take the time to go within and question your faith. Take the time to go within and remove the doubt. Take the time to strengthen your faith and your trust. You see, Thanksgiving shouldn't just be about the food on your table. Thanksgiving should also be about the things in your heart. Thanksgiving should also be about the things that you are blessed with every day of your life. Thanksgiving should also be about the way that you are treating people. Thanksgiving is more than just the food on your table. Thanksgiving is also about the health in your body. Thanksgiving is about peace of mind. Thanksgiving is about prosperity and success. Thanksgiving is about abundance. It's about life. It's about the good that permeates every fiber of your being. As the master teacher said, if you have faith and doubt not. You see, I want to say one more thing. When you read the story of Jesus and Peter, Jesus walking across the waters, and Jesus called out to Peter, "Come to me." And Peter stepped out of the boat onto the water with his hands outstretched to Jesus. And as Peter walked toward Jesus, all of a sudden there came a thought. I'm walking on water. I'm not supposed to be able to walk on water. And he sank. And Jesus had to extend his hand, lift him up. O ye of little faith. But we do not have to walk the waters of the Atlantic Ocean. We can walk above the confusion and the chaos and the conflict. We can rise above the doubt and the unbelief and all the things that seeks to pull us down from our spiritual growth and unfoldment. We must learn to walk above the chaos of the world. And when we can walk, when we can elevate ourselves above the chaos, the confusion, and the conflicts of the world, we are walking on water. We are above the confusion. We are above the darkness. We are above the shadows of life. And then we know we have within ourselves the faith that we can rise above all things. This is what the scripture is teaching. This is what the master teacher came and taught. That we do not have to drown in the conflicts, the confusion, the doubt, and the unbelief. Not only those things of the world, but those things that are within us. Jesus said unto his disciples and to the multitude, Be in the world, but not of the world. If you're of that worldly consciousness, then everything that affects those of the world will also affect you. And that is not the truth of your being. So it is. Namaste.